All right, man. This video is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be heavily edited or anything like that. I simply want to vent. After what I seen them do last night to Denver, that's the Denver Nuggets, to me, the most reliable offense in the league, and what they did to Phoenix and really what they've been doing throughout the season, I just got inspired to get behind this mic and vent. Obviously, the talk of the playoffs really has been Anthony Edwards. He resembles a lot of Michael Jordan. He kind of looks like him. It feels like a reincarnation of him. He plays like him. He's a two-way player. Obviously, he's getting all the spotlight, but as a team collectively, bro, that team is special. I watched that team absolutely annihilate Phoenix, and I picked Phoenix to win that series in 7 simply because I thought half-court wise, where the game slows down in the playoffs, they had the more reliable half-court weapons. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Grayson Allen led the NBA in three-point percentage, and he didn't really play, but I thought they had the more reliable half-court offense, which, like I said, in the playoffs, it typically comes down to that. And Anthony Edwards is 22 years old, and I thought way too much was going to be on his shoulders. Bro, I was wrong as hell. Silly me, because honestly, the signs, they were definitely there. Phoenix, they struggled all year with fourth quarter execution, and all that to me came down to them not having a point guard. I didn't even take into account how important that position truly is. Like a player that plays that naturally, a player that sets up everybody and allows everybody else to play their natural position. If you look at the last few champions, look at their point guards or players that actually ran the show. Denver last year with Jamal Murray, but obviously Nikola Jokic, like the greatest center point forward that you can actually have. In 2022, Draymond Green and Steph. In 2021, Drew Holiday, he was a big upgrade over Eric Bledsoe. In 2020, LeBron, like 2019, Kyle Lowry. It matters. Phoenix, even with how talented they were, they resembled a lot of those talented teams in the past. The Clippers, especially before they had James Harden and Russell Westbrook, where they had talent even in the backcourt, but they didn't have that guy that set everybody else up and have that offense run fluently. Boston, especially before they had Drew Holiday. Those teams that you see in late May, early June, they normally have an identity within how the offense runs or who it runs through. Phoenix, they never had that. 3 players that essentially played the exact same way with the exact same position, and they ran up against one of the most elite defenses collectively that I've ever seen. Minnesota, they literally dominated them in every facet of the game, and that surprised me. Defensively, obviously, on the glass at a historic pace. I talked about that in my last video. Offensively, obviously, they had the best player in the damn series, Anthony Edwards, but they have a point guard, and that trade, that Mike Conley trade, is aging like wine. They're leading the playoffs by a significant margin in offensive rating. They're leading the playoffs in team points per game, and even with how dominant he's been offensively, it's not like it's been in a Luka, Jalen Brunson this year type sense where he's holding the ball. And it's like 8th in usage percentage. And he's like 3rd in points per game in these playoffs, but he's shooting the 7th most shots. The Timberwolves in these playoffs, they have damn near 7 players shooting 9 shots a game. That's unheard of. Literally, everybody is getting theirs. And what's so impressive to me, and why this team, why this team can actually win a championship, I never thought I would be saying this, is how their defense really complements their offense in these playoffs. And I'm gonna talk about this way more detailed on Thursday. I promise y'all I got y'all. In this video, I'm talking about the playoffs as a whole. On Thursday, it's gonna be specifically about Ant and that squad. In these playoffs, they seem perfect. They're 6-0, they haven't lost yet. They haven't been perfect, they turn the ball over. They're top 5 in turnovers a night. But so far, Phoenix or Denver, they can't execute off of their mishaps because their recovery defense is that insane. Even with them turning the ball over at a top 5 clip in these playoffs, they're bottom 4 as far as their opponents' points off of their mistakes. Meanwhile, they're forcing their opponents to turn the ball over and they execute. They're at the top as far as points off of turnovers. I never in my life, since I've been watching them, I've never seen Nikola Jokic look more uncomfortable as he looked in these last 2 games against Minnesota, ever. I seen him eat up Anthony Davis, no diddy. I seen him even in the bubble. I know he struggled a bit against Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis, and Dwight, he wears that on his shield. Like, he loves the fact that he quote unquote stopped Nikola Jokic. I seen that, but it was never quite like this. Nikola Jokic had 7 turnovers in that game 5 against the Lakers. 7 turnovers that added to his turnover total in that series. For the series, I believe he had like 16. In these 2 games alone, he has 11. Jamal Murray, and I know he's hobbled by that calf, and I know he was struggling even against the Lakers outside of those 2 game winners he hit. But in these 2 games, he can't even dribble. Really, the whole team can't, but him specifically, they're swarming his ass. He's 9 for 32 in these 2 games alone. the Nuggets as a team, that's a very high shooting percentile team, mainly because they have Nikola Jokic, probably the best operator running the show. They shot 34% from the field. That's the lowest they shot damn near in 2 years. The Nuggets, as I watched last night, and if you watched, it was an absolute historic defensive performance. One of the best, maybe the best I've ever seen. They couldn't even dribble. Like, even the plays that weren't tracked as steals, they got their hands on. Like, they had 21 deflections. Minnesota, and I looked it up this morning because I genuinely wanted to see how dominant exactly was their perimeter defense in game 2. They shot 20% against Jaden McDaniels, Denver. They shot 20%. They shot 25% when Anthony Edwards was the primary defender. They shot 30% when Mike Conley was the primary defender. They shot 15% on 13 shots when Naz Reid was the primary defender. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was smiling guarding Jamal Murray. They shot 28% when he was the primary defender on 14 shots. It was an absolute historic performance, bro. I don't want to make the whole video about Minnesota, but God, they are going to be tough, and they possibly could win it this year. The New York Knicks, it's good to see the Knicks back in the playoffs and seeing Knicks basketball at Madison Square Garden. It's amazing to watch. But by the time their season ends, they're going to need so much ice and so much time and so much healing to get their bodies recovered. They just came out of a 6-game series, the closest 6-game series you're going to ever watch. I believe it was decided by like 1 point. And now they're about to jump right back into what I believe is going to be a 7-game series versus Indiana against Philly. And I'm not going to be too long and go in depth on every single series, but my key takeaway from that one is, number one, I have a lot of respect for Joel Embiid. Like, obviously, I would love to see him finally play one playoff run fully healthy. I've never seen it, but the fact that he was out there, you can tell he was struggling with his vision. Obviously, he just had a knee surgery this year, and he averaged like 33 and 11. I can't ask more from him. And now people are nitpicking his fourth quarters this playoffs, when to me, the fact that he was even out there being a presence for his team, that was good enough. He wasn't terrible. He was impactful. He was still, to me, their best player. I know Tyrese Maxey had a great series, and he had a big game in Game 5 where he basically saved the day. But Joel Embiid was their best player, and the fact that he was even out there, I got to give him kudos for that. Tyrese Maxey, he won the most improved player this season, and now he's a legitimate, reliable number 2 option to Joel Embiid. Like, this playoffs proved it. The regular season proved it. And if they can fill that absent wing spot, that 3 spot that Tobias Harris was basically robbing them from, he had the worst, one of the worst contracts in the league. And this playoff specifically, he proved it. He had a donut in Game 6. Now they're finally absolved of that terrible mistake they made in 2019, signing Tobias Harris to that massive contract that Jimmy Butler clowned him for, and they can possibly go after, who knows, a Paul George, who knows. It's tough that Julius Randle got hurt. Obviously, you don't want anybody to be hurt, but the fact that he's not there, to me, is kind of making the New York Knicks, I'm really enjoying this version of them. Like, it's a very fun, unorthodox team to watch. Some of those little mini moves they made over the past 2 years legitimately made them one of the more fun teams to watch. The Nova Knicks now, Josh Hart. I mean, he has the perfect last name. He's leading the playoffs in offensive rebounds a night at 6'4". He's like 4th in total rebounds a night, and he's 6'4". I saw a stat last night in last night's game where he's averaging the most rebounds at 6'4" since like 1960. I don't want to disrespect him by putting him in this category, but obviously he's not known as a star. But this playoffs so far, he might quite possibly be the most important role player so far. The Knicks obviously don't have a bunch of stars on their team. It's really just Jalen Brunson kind of running the show by himself right now. Like, it's very impressive to watch. And that's another reason why I'm enjoying Julius Randle not being there. It's fun to watch the complete arsenal of a Jalen Brunson. But this year in these playoffs, the Knicks, they lead the playoffs in field goal attempts, mainly because they lead the playoffs in offensive rebounds, mainly because Josh Hart leads the playoffs in offensive rebounds from a player. To have a player defending like he does, giving you so many second chance points with all these offensive rebounds and grabbing all these rebounds collectively, and he's knocking down 44% of his threes, that's insane value. Also, Jalen Brunson, bro, he just had 4 straight 40-point games, and the one that he didn't score 40 in, he had 39. If you take out those first 2 games in which I think he shot like 16 for 50 or 60 something, it was insane, like he was struggling. If you take out those first 2 games against Philly, he's averaging like 42 as a 6'1" guard. It's very ironic to watch Jalen Brunson leave a very ball-dominant, usage-heavy player like Luka Doncic just to leave him and essentially become his own mini version of him in New York. Now, he's leading the playoffs by far in usage percentage. He's leading the NBA by far in field goal attempts, like in Allen Iverson territory. One more quick note on the Knicks real quick. It's kind of funny watching the Knicks, or this version of the Knicks, because it feels like the prototypical Tom Thibodeau team. Even if you look at them back with Derrick Rose, they were a great team that had a dominant, very ball dominant, score heavy point guard with Derrick Rose surrounded by a bunch of defenders. They were very defensively sound back then with Joakim Noah, Luol Deng, a very young Jimmy Butler that wasn't that offensively polished back then. And they had a clear offensive source that was a small point guard, Derrick Rose. And now it's Jalen Brunson. Also, the Lakers. LeBron just went home in the first round for the second time of his career, both times being with the Lakers within the last 3 to 4 years. And I saw a stat that the Lakers led for 75% of that 5-game gentleman's sweep, and they only won 1 game. If you look at the second halves of that series, or specifically the third quarters, I believe Denver was like a plus 49, and the Lakers were obviously minus 49. That's kind of how they lost. The second half, they came out so damn flat. It's not like their 2 best players played bad. If you look at LeBron and AD, they played great. Some people try to slam LeBron for missing that wide open shot, I believe in game 3 or game 4, one of the two. I think it was game 3. But if you look at LeBron at the totality of that specific fourth quarter, he played great. Anthony Davis, he hurt his shoulder, I believe in game 5 at the end of the game, and it cost him crucial minutes in which Denver, they went on a run and they won. But Anthony Davis had one of the best series of his career, definitely his Lakers career. It's not like they couldn't compete with Denver. We saw last year, even when they lost 10, 11 straight, they always were in the games. They just simply could not capitalize and finish the games. And Darvin Ham, a lot of people are hard on him. And at first I was like, damn, y'all way too hard on Darvin Ham, but I see it now. When certain lineups, after you got the lead, are causing your team now to be in a deficit, bro, you have to change that. When you clearly see the momentum shifting, and again, this is a team that's done this to you 11 straight times, so you know how it goes. When you see that shift in the third, fourth quarter, bro, you have to call timeouts. You can't let them play through it because that literally cost you the series. Dallas versus the Clippers, bro, for the Clippers and Steve Ballmer and Ty Lue, I'm just sad for them, bro, because they made mistakes. Even signing Kawhi, him being the first player that you extended, I believe for like a 3-year, $150 million deal, that was a mistake. Clearly not because of talent. When Kawhi is there, they're, to me, a championship contender every single year. But he's been the main one, I believe, over the last 3 years that hasn't been around for the playoffs. So I didn't understand extending him. Now that you extended him, you basically might as well commit to the whole core, because who you going to surround around him? Paul George, reportedly they tried to lowball him, and Clippers fans, they're justified in saying, bro, you don't deserve a max. Drake and Kendrick, they saved you, but you laid an egg in these last 2 games against Dallas. But if you don't give him the max, who are you going to pair with Kawhi Leonard? Russell Westbrook, it was cool. It was a cute Cinderella story early on with the Clippers. He finally been home. It was the Lakers' fault. But he kind of transformed back into Russell Westbrook, and he was abysmal shooting-wise in this series. And it seemed like he just wanted to muff up the series and fight and be in everybody's face. Like, he wasn't really that effective, especially offensively. And James Harden, he played great for the first 4 games, but the last 2 where you really needed him, he was James Harden. So that team, back-to-back first-round defeats, and the year before that, y'all made the play-in tournament without Paul George and Kawhi playing. It's just a disaster. It's just that simple. As for Dallas, it was obviously not Luka's best series. Like, he was very inefficient and he's not healthy right now. But it was fun to watch him get carried. And Kyrie, he literally just had one of the best series of his career. I don't know what exactly it is. Maybe it's way less media attention being in Dallas, or way less pressure being the clear number 2 option to a Luka. But I love seeing Kyrie genuinely happy to just be playing basketball. Like, we can truly just enjoy how beautiful this man's game really is. If you guys like this video, please do not just leave the video. Like the video. Like, it really shows y'all just enjoy me venting about whatever I got to say. And that, I like, these are fun to make. Follow my social media sites for all of my live reactions, specifically my X or my Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Do all that great stuff, guys. And until next time, as always, stay away from my X. Stay tuned.